Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Today we are going to discuss the Nobel Prize in Economics. Who have received this prize, for what they have received this prize, what are their theories, and what are the implications of this particular prize for India. Now, if we discuss why is this topic important, it is important that you know about it from the preliminary point of view and from the perspective of GS Mains Paper 3rd. So, without any further ado, let us move ahead with what is the news. Banks' role in financial crises. This is a news piece that we have garnered from the Indian Express. And this particular is the research for which the three Nobel laureates have been awarded this prize. Moving ahead, if we talk about what is the Nobel Prize in Economics, you must know that when originally Alfred Nobel put certain categories in his will about the Nobel Prize, economics was not a part of it. Economics came to be known as a Nobel Prize. It is known as a Nobel Prize, but it was not a part of the elite group that was suggested by Alfred Nobel in his will. That was in, of course, late 1890s. So if we talk about this particular prize, certain important facts are there that could be asked in your examination. It was established, the Nobel Prize in Economics, in 1968 by Sveriges Riksbank. This is the Central Bank of Sweden. The prize is based on a donation which was received by this particular bank in 1968, and that coincided with bank's 300th anniversary. The first ever Nobel Prize in Economics was awarded in the year 1969 to Ragnar Frisch and Jan Tinbergen. Okay, so these are the certain preliminary facts which were important. Currently, who have received this prize? Who all have? Ben S. Bernanke, Douglas W. Diamond, and Philip H. Dybvig. So, first person has his own theory about banks' role in the financial crises, and he originated this theory from the perspective of the 1930 depression, Great Depression. Douglas W. Diamond and Philip H. Dybvig, they have explained why banks are such a part, what happens to the banks that they become a part of the financial crises. Okay, and the theme for which they have received this particular prize is for research on banks and financial crises. Their research shows why avoiding a bank collapse is important for the economy, and the purpose of mentioning this history is to highlight how failures are central to banks. That means if there is any sort of failure in an economy, banks have a major role for it. This is what the theorists approached towards, and then they got the prize for it. Moving ahead, let us talk about the first theory, that is the Ben Bernanke's theory. And remember that Ben Bernanke was a central government person. That means he was a chair of the US Fed at the time of 2008 crisis. So a policymaker, central bank policymaker, has theorized this, and that is why he got this particular prize. So the Great Depression, although the Great Depression was a crisis which is known to everybody, but nobody knows that why it was prolonged for such a long time. And there was a lack of policy stimulus. This is the general accepted theory about this particular depression, that policy stimulus was not there, productive activities were not being undertaken, and maybe this is the reason where people did not demand a lot. This is what the theorists say, general theorists. The economist John Maynard Keynes said monetary policy was ineffective in such crises, and one needed a large fiscal stimulus on the part of the banks and the government to avoid this depression. Milton Friedman said that central banks could create money. That means they had a role in creating money, even if there was a crisis, by buying assets. How? If the central banks could buy assets, then what would have happened? They would have purchased it by giving money to other parties, and that money is the liquidity that was needed in the market. Money would have been created. Okay, so this is what the general theory is, that banks did have a role according to Milton Friedman as well. Moving ahead, the current theorist says, Bernanke says, while a lack of policy stimulus explains that there was a contraction. No productive activities were there, no fiscal stimulus was there. So, okay, contraction is there. Maybe people did not have a lot of money in their hands to, purchase something. So, supply also had to come down. But of course, why was this so prolonged? It should have, ebbed in a small period of time. So, it does not explain why the Great Depression continued for such a long time, because he says that there was a large number of banks that were failing, and banks were not in a position to channel loans towards productive activities. They were not in a position, they might not have the deposits, or the demand for productive infrastructure was not such that loans could be given to them. Banks have special insights into companies, different companies they are a part of. So their insight also failed by stimulating the companies to get loans and move forward for productive activities. A failed banking system takes many years to regenerate, and in that period of time, the economy suffers. Moving ahead, let us talk about Diamond and Dybvig's theory insight. What is their insight? They talk about why do banks fail, and this entire process is known as Diamond-Dybvig model. Everybody knows about bank runs. When there is a rumor, there might be some truth to it that a certain bank is failing. I have my deposit over there, but I am scared that if this bank fails, what will happen? I won't get my money back. So I will run towards the bank and get my deposit back with myself safely. This is known as a bank run. So this formality, or you can say the formalization of this process, is the Diamond-Dybvig model. Okay. And because of this formalization of this particular theory, they have got this award. Banks fail when depositors rush for their money, the bank run. Banks are seen as financial intermediaries. This is the core of their theory. That means for people, according to this theory, the bank is just an intermediary. They first get deposits from the deposit holders, and then out of those deposits, they lend the loan. This is what the core of the theory is. And the depositors are for shorter duration. It might be that depositor A has just deposited their money for 1 year, and loanee B has taken loan from the bank, and it is for 5 years. And this is the difference. Because of this particular difference, banks are prone to fail. Because the gestation period is long, you have 100 rupees deposited with yourself from a friend. Another friend you have lent 500 rupees. Now, you have put that 500 rupees in your previous capital of 400 rupees and given it all to the second friend. So, if the first friend comes to take that 100 rupees, you might not be able to give the money back to them. This is one of the reasons banks are prone to runs by depositors. Then, they also give a solution for this particular thing, that bank runs don't occur. A solution for bank failure via deposit insurance. That means whatever deposit a person is doing in your bank, it is insured. A sum of money of it is insured. Even if the banks fail, they are able to return that money to you. Okay. And because of this, in 1933, the US was the first country to deposit insurance, to adopt deposit insurance. India followed only in the year 1962. Moving ahead, let us talk about possible controversies to this theory. Now, Bernanke's legacy as a policymaker during the global financial crisis of 2008 is mixed. He has critiques as well as praises for it. Some say that because he was a Federal Reserve Board member and also part of the team which kept interest rates low. So when interest rates were low, people took more money as loan, and because of that, housing bubble was created. This is one of the critiques or criticisms, that real estate bubble or housing bubble was created, in which people started buying more and more property due to getting loans easily. And when they got loans easily, they increased their demand that, okay, we want a house, but the supply could not match that. And that created housing bubble, and that was very detrimental according to some critics. His policies during the crises were also questioned, as the central bank passed a high monetary stimulus to prevent bank failures, and that created bubbles. Moving ahead, let us talk about the case which can criticize Diamond-Dybvig's theory. The controversy is more around the roles of banks. because according to a 2014 research by Bank of England economist, it suggests that it's not that banks are getting the deposit first and then they are lending the loans from that deposit. This is according to a study of 2014 by the Bank of England. But you remember this particular point that Sweden's Sveriges Riksbank, which was the world's first central bank, they do believe that banks are intermediary. They first take deposits and then give loan and not the other way around. So that may be the reason Nobel Prize was awarded to them. Implications for India in the banking system is a lot for, according to this prize. We can study this model because India has been facing sporadic banking crises from 2013. And once it starts, it becomes very hard to handle them and then bailing starts. Specifically, weak performance of individual banks are taken into account, such as Punjab National Bank, certain cooperative banks, even Yes Bank. When they start to fail, there is a systemic challenge in solving them. The banks need to be then bailed out by the government, and this is just creation of more and more liquidity trap. Raghuram Rajan, interestingly, has written many research papers with Douglas Diamond, so he might have missed this chance of getting a Nobel. The committee has cited 12 of his research papers. This is also very important to know. You remember, I don't know if you do, in 2008 as well, there was a rumor around ICICI Bank that it is failing. Just because of a rumor, bank runs started to occur. And because of that, the advisory from the central bank had to come that ICICI is indeed safe and sound for your deposits. So these are the certain rumors which have been established according to the current Nobel awardees. Moving ahead, let us talk about our question. What is the role of the banking system in creating and prolonging a financial crisis? In 250 words, that means you have to be critical here and use this theory. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay updated and stay engaged.